Welcome to Bridging the Bayou, where we will explore what it means to work, live, and play in the Bayou Region. Join us as we take a deeper dive into the people and experiences that make our region such a special place to live and work. On each podcast, we will talk to individuals who are making our region grow and go, who are making strides in uplifting our community. This is a podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College. Welcome to Bridging the Bayou, the podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College. I'm your host, Chancellor Kristine Strickland, and joined by a very special guest today, Miss Jennifer Armand, who serves as the Executive Director for the Bayou Community Foundation. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Excellent. Well, we are glad that you have joined us today. We want to share all of the wonderful and amazing things that are happening with the foundation. I know you guys are doing some tremendous work in our community and really have seen some growth. But we are going to start out with our 5 in 5. So 5 questions, 5 minutes. So let's start with my first question was, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up? Did you think you were going to be executive director?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I can remember in 7th grade, we had an English writing project, and we had to talk about what we wanted to be when we grew up, and I wrote that I wanted to be an actress. I did some theater in high school and a little bit in my younger adult age, but haven't done that in a while, and obviously did not become an actress.
Well, let me just ask, a favorite part that you played? Do you have a favorite role or favorite play even?
I did, with Baton Rouge Little Theater, we did A Christmas Carol back in, that's been a long time, probably in the early 90s. And I was Bob Cratchit's wife. I was Mrs. Cratchit.
Oh, very nice.
And I just love Dickens, and I love A Christmas Carol, and that's just one role that really stands out for me.
Very cool. Do you still do community theater?
No, I haven't done it. I did one play here when we first moved to Houma back in 1998-ish, I guess, but haven't been able to since.
All right.
Just too busy.
La Petite Theater. We've got somebody out here. Give her a call. All right. Favorite book?
Favorite book. Okay. I have read many novels, and I know some of the other books that some of your guests have read are those that people really remember. The one, though, that sticks with me, that has grown with me over my life, is The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein.
Oh, yeah, the children's book, right?
Yes.
But for adults, too, is from what I understand.
Well, I remember my mom reading it to me as a child, and I remember being so sad for the tree because the tree was giving everything it had for the boy, who later became a man and then an older man. When I read it to my own kids, I then, in the role of a parent, saw the great love the tree had for the boy and was willing to sacrifice everything. And now with my work with Bayou Community Foundation, I truly see the blessing of giving to people, particularly people that you would not otherwise come in contact in your life. So so that book has special meaning to me.
Wow, that really is something. And how special. I mean, as you were saying that, with some of the other podcast guests, we talked about how certain books, they sort of stay with you and the meaning of them changes. So it's a favorite book and you read it at one point in your life and it maybe speaks to you in a certain way, and then you go back and you reread it, and because of other experiences or just age and growth and maturity, it hits a little different. And it sounds like that's for you as well.
Yes, it is. It's a great book. So if anyone hasn't picked it up or read it to their children, I would encourage them to do that.
I don't think I've ever read it.
Oh, well, you need to look it up.
I am going to my kids got me a new Kindle for my birthday.
There you go.
I'm trying to reignite my love of reading, actually. Funny enough, so that's why I've been asking everybody about their book, because I'm like, I need to get some good books. And of course, yesterday I said to somebody the other day, I said, I'm trying to figure out what I want to read again for just enjoyment. I was reading a lot for work. And of course, this morning I got fed an email that said the top 5 books to reignite your love of reading. And I was like, oh, my phone's listening.
Oh, yes, that is
So
right.
maybe I'll get fed The Giving Tree.
Yes.
Tonight.
It's a quick read, very quick read.
I will buy it.
But I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you. All right. What's something that you have done in your life that you never imagined that you would get the opportunity to do?
Ooh, so many things. I think this position that I now hold is one of them. But personally, I'm a certified scuba diver. And
Really?
I've always enjoyed swimming. I taught swimming lessons when I was an older teenager. But back, I don't know, when my husband and I were married just a few years, we became certified scuba divers. And I've had the opportunity, because of my husband's work, to be able to travel all over the world and scuba dive in some amazing places like Fiji and Cayman and Hawaii and just all over the Caribbean and the Pacific. It's been amazing, and I would have never imagined that growing up in Karen Crow and teaching swimming lessons at the age of 17.
No kidding. That is very cool. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. We learned something new. All right, so now I have to ask, what's been your favorite place? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, well, scuba diving, Fiji was amazing. And of course, the culture and just literally being across the world.
Yeah.
My other favorite place is Provence in France. My daughter,
Really?
Yeah, my daughter did study abroad her sophomore year in college in Strasbourg, France. And we traveled to meet her and went down to Provence and spent a week just all in some small towns and seeing all of the Roman ruins in that part of France.
Yeah.
It was absolutely beautiful. And of course, we enjoyed the wine and the olive oil and the people. And
good things.
Everyone was just so nice and warm. And we tried a little bit of our French. Thank goodness our daughter could speak it a lot better than us. But that's 2 of my favorite places.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Favorite thing to cook?
Crawfish étouffée.
Really? All
Yes.
right.
I'll just say that because I'm a prairie Cajun, not a Bayou Cajun. Okay.
Okay. Can you tell me the difference? My Ohio is coming up right now for everybody to see. So,
I grew up around Lafayette,
Okay.
hometown of Karen Crow, which is just north of Lafayette. So whenever I moved here, and the whole bayous and all of the bridges you have to cross living here was all new to me. So we are Bayou Cajuns, I would like to say, boudin cracklins, as opposed to, fish and oysters. But anyway, so crawfish obviously is very big in Acadiana.
Yeah.
And my mother makes such a delicious crawfish étouffée, and I try to make it just as good as her. And I probably don't succeed, but still I enjoy making that. I enjoy eating it, and it always makes me remember home.
There you go. A labor of love.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And
wonderful. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Bayou Community Foundation.
Sure.
And we may have some individuals out there who are watching or listening to the podcast who have maybe heard of BCF or Bayou Community Foundation, but let's start there. What is it? What do you guys do? What's the purpose and the mission of the organization?
Sure. Bayou Community Foundation simply is the foundation supporting our coastal community right here, Lafourche, Terrebonne, and Grand Isle. We are creating a community, a diverse, robust community that can thrive. And we do it all through philanthropy. We like to say we connect people who care with causes that matter. And so our focus is on building nonprofit capacity, addressing critical needs in our community, and really elevating the lives of every man, woman, and child who lives here. Bayou Community Foundation was formed back in 2012. Local residents here and philanthropists realized that our community did not have a philanthropic engine to be able to accept contributions from foundations all over the country, if and when the next disaster struck. And so they got right to work to form the Bayou Community Foundation. I want to credit some of our local residents like J.J. Buquet and Charlotte Bollinger and Stephen Pelche, Alexis and Berwick Duval, Mr. Benny Sinak for realizing this need here. And they put their money where their mouth was and got this foundation started. And since then, during Blue Skies, when we've been able to award over $2.6 million to over 300 nonprofits, Fletcher being one of them, and we're so happy for that.
Absolutely.
To address critical needs, everything from hunger to housing to homelessness to critical programs for students and at-risk youth and the elderly. And, of course, in the aftermath of tragedies and natural disasters, Hurricane Ida being the biggest in 2021, we've been able to invest over $12 million in hurricane recovery just for our region and for our residents, including a massive housing recovery program that is still underway. Thanks to the wonderful gifts that have been shared with BCF and over 100,000 hours of volunteers, we've been able to repair and rebuild homes for over 500 residents in our area, faster than I say any government program can do. And we are just so blessed to have been able to bring people back home.
Yeah. I want to take a minute to dive into that because I have seen the pictures on social media of you all on the front porch of the homes. Tell us about the program. How do you identify people who have that need? What does that look like? Are you actually constructing homes from the ground up? Who does that work? Do you have partner organizations? Kind of walk us through what that looks like for folks here.
Sure. It's a mixture of repairs and new builds. So within the 530 or so homes that we have completed, we have 53 new homes built from the ground up, primarily by Amish volunteers who have come here from Pennsylvania and Ohio over the past 3 years to donate their tremendous skill and craftsmanship and, of course, their generous time to rebuild and repair homes. Bayou Community Foundation began a tremendous partnership with MDS Storm Aid in January of 2022 in Dulac. For 2 years, they sent volunteers here to rebuild and repair homes. And in Dulac alone, we built 24 new homes.
Wow.
All storm resilient, gold fortified homes with able to withstand 150 mile per hour winds, and repaired over 300 just in Dulac alone for the first 2 years. And the success allowed us to then move into Grand Isle and South Lafourche. And over the last 2 years there, we built 8 homes in Grand Isle. And I believe, I should have had my numbers handy, but we had probably about 20 in South Lafourche, including, we're very excited for our tiny home that we built in South Lafourche. We had many, many applicants for our program who were single elderly, who lost everything they owned. And our hearts went out to them. They were at a place in their lives that it's very, very difficult to start over. And without the resources, without the help, they were left with no hope, no place to go. So one of our volunteers, we have many local volunteers who helped us through the application process and just organizing the program itself. One of our local volunteers, Mr. Mark Sheremy, developed the concept of a tiny home that would allow us to stretch our resources and build even more homes, particularly for these single elderly. So in South Lafourche, we built 6. We call them our Bayou bungalows. And it was just a wonderful and unique solution for housing for these folks. And we're hoping to bring that to Terrebonne this season. Our work continues this season. We now have Amish volunteers, Christian Aid Ministries, that is working. Their base camp is Bayou Blue, and they're able to do repairs and new builds for us in Terrebonne Parish and in northern Lafourche. So we're stretching out our footprint a little bit more, and we hope to help at least 50 families this spring from now until May. We could not do it without the tremendous generosity of our donors from all over the country. And of course, these wonderful volunteers who have shared not only their lives, but just their faith and their culture with us. Yeah. We have been able to take our volunteers to different crawfish boils over the years. Morrison Terrebonne Lumber is one of the providers of our building materials for the program, and they invite us to crawfish boils each year. And it's just so wonderful to see them experiencing boiled crawfish, and we learn so much from them. It's been a tremendous program.
Yeah, that really warms my heart because I grew up in Northeast Ohio, and on the weekends, my parents, we would go to Amish country. Oftentimes, they sell the materials, the home goods that they make up there. My mom hails from Pennsylvania in Amish country, and so that's amazing to me to hear that they have come down here and are helping our community, because they are such a rich community in terms of culture and in terms of faith and all of those things. And it honestly, on a side note, it amazes me growing up in Ohio, really the connection between people who live in Ohio and South Louisiana. The lifestyle, the importance of family, all of those things are so closely aligned. I know even when my family has visited down here, they're like, it just feels like home. It's pretty amazing. I think the other thing that struck me when you were talking about that, we've been talking a lot about Terrebonne and Lafourche parishes and how we continue to invest in the community so that people can stay here. And a lot of times we talk about in terms of workforce development, but housing is a huge issue. And in particular, working with our elderly. Look, I'm a little bit younger. I don't think I'm quite elderly yet. But after the past few storms, the yard cleanup, the home repairs, it gets tougher as you get older. And so that you all are making it possible for people who might have to say, like, I can't go out and clean up my yard, and I can't lift heavy things or do the repairs, but that there's somebody there to help them and help them get to remain in their community, get to remain in their home. I mean, what a wonderful mission. You must be so proud of that.
I am. And I have to say, this is, when you go back to things you expected or what did you want to do when you grew up, I never imagined I would be director of a community foundation, but I also never imagined our community foundation would be involved in this work 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But what I have learned throughout my life is always be open to those opportunities. You never know what's coming your way, but be open. Be open as well to the call that God is making in your life, and realize that opportunities present themselves for a reason. We would have never imagined, as I said, that BCF could be doing this, but we saw a need. We actually met here at Fletcher in November 16th, I believe was the date, 2021, just after Hurricane Ida, for a recovery needs assessment. And I believe you participated, Kristine.
I did.
And what we heard from everyone there, that housing was going to be the number one challenge for our area to recover. Whether it was your students or staff or people up and down the bayou, that was going to be the biggest challenge. And we heard that, and at the same time, by God's grace, Storm Aid was visiting Dulac and looking to see if this was a place that they could help. And we met with them. We learned that if we could make $1 million commitment for building supplies, they would come here to help us rebuild. And after hearing what we did at the needs assessment and having them come, we knew this was an opportunity we could not pass up to help our community. And the rest has been history, as they say.
Yeah. And I appreciate you facilitating those conversations, because it is easy sometimes for us to get into a pattern or into a comfort zone, even when we have things that are really successful. And your constant kind of taking a look back and saying, are we still aligned with what the community needs? Are we still heading in the right direction? And then being able to pivot to go in a new direction that is meaningful, I think is really an important part of the work that gets done through Bayou Community Foundation. With that, you just talked about, you wouldn't imagine 4 years ago that this is what we would be doing with the Bayou Community Foundation today. Can you tell us a little bit about what's evolved? So where were we? What were you doing in sort of the early days of the foundation? And what does that look like today? Are there things that have sustained the test of time? And obviously there's some new things as well.
Yes. Well, I can say that our grants program, our nonprofit grants program, has sustained the test of time and has grown over time. That was one of the pivotal programs for Bayou Community Foundation since its beginning. And in 2013, we had our first grants program. I think we awarded about a half a dozen grants for just at about $100,000. That has grown since 2013 to 2024, when we awarded over $350,000 to 30 nonprofits. So that has grown as we have not only been able to grow our own resources, thanks to our donors, but also been more in touch with the needs of our community, as you said, and the tremendous work that nonprofits are doing, many of whom are doing this work in the shadows without people realizing exactly the work that they're doing, who they're serving, and how. So that has continued to be the foundation of our foundation, is our annual grants program. In 2020, when COVID came upon us, we launched our recovery fund because we knew that so many nonprofits had to adjust their programs to meet the requirements that COVID was thrusting upon us. And we're working to help residents in so many new ways. And so we awarded grants from our recovery fund during the year 2020 for COVID-related programs and services. And little did we know that was just a warm-up for Ida.
For the next thing.
Right, and for all of the recovery fund grants that we would award for that storm. So once again, we pivoted, we grew, we evolved. And then in the past 3 or 4 years, we have also grown in our, let me just say, advocacy or convening role. As hunger and behavioral health have increased as prominent needs in our community, we've responded. We have formed working groups on hunger and behavioral health. For the past 2 years, we've been meeting regularly with all of our local food banks to talk about ways we can collaborate better as a community, fill any gaps for food services and distributions. With that, we have created a food distribution map that's on the Bayou Community Foundation website at bayoucf.org. So anyone, a resident or another nonprofit, can visit our website. Just look for the food directory map, and you will see the locations, times of service, and any other requirements for all the different food sites in Lafourche, Terrebonne, and Grand Isle.
That's fantastic.
And we've also launched a working group on behavioral health in response to our 2023 needs assessment. And just yesterday, we held a roundtable discussion on crisis behavioral health care in hopes of addressing gaps in services, helping people become more aware of the 988 crisis line and other services that we have here for residents who need crisis intervention and assistance for mental health or substance use.
Wow. I didn't realize that you were doing all of those things.
Yes.
So that's fantastic. And really serving as almost like a coordinating group to make sure that services are not being offered in silos and that everyone throughout the community is aware of what they potentially have access to, right?
Yes, that is correct. At yesterday's meeting, in fact, we had 50 representatives from nonprofit agencies, law enforcement, education. It was a great discussion. And as one participant mentioned, this is the first time everyone has been in a room together. So BCF is just happy to make that happen. I also cannot forget every year we have a wonderful nonprofit conference right here at
Yes.
Fletcher, and we are delighted that you continue to allow us to come here
Absolutely.
and just give a day just for nonprofit leaders to come together and learn and grow on fund development and governance and so many different issues that affect nonprofits. And we also conduct workshops throughout the year on specific topics for our nonprofit leaders, all to build their capacity beyond what we can do for our grants.
Great. And do you have a time frame of the conference this year? When the date?
This year we are looking, in the past we've done it in August. And we always hold our breath because we're at the height of storm season.
Peak season.
So this year, we are looking at the October break.
Oh, okay. Great.
So that's what we're shooting for. And I think there's like the first 2 weeks of October. That's our window. So we'll be announcing that date soon.
Good. And hopefully a little quieter weather-wise.
Yes. Let's
For
hope.
sure. You've talked a little bit about your donors, and you've mentioned some individuals. And I know those individuals, just tremendous philanthropists in our community, giving so much of their time and their talent and their treasure to give back to our community. But who else donates? Who are your donors? If I wanted to give you $5 today, could I do that?
Absolutely.
You take my $5?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about who donates, and maybe even for those listening, if they'd like to donate, what can they do?
Yes. Well, first, you can easily donate on our website. You'll see the Donate Now button, and you can give by credit card, online, or you're welcome to send a check, and the instructions are there on the website. But our donors are everyone, individuals, residents who live here, who give anything from $5 to $5,000. We also have many donors from private foundations or corporate foundations, and that may be here, all over, or all over the country. It's especially noteworthy that with our rebuilding program, we are seeing residents who see the progress maybe in their community, their neighborhood, who know people who have benefited from the home repairs or new builds. And they have contributed as a way to help us continue this work, and they see the direct impact on people they know and care about. So that's been really nice. We especially saw that in Grand Isle. We had a great partnership with Our Lady of the Isle Catholic Church and Father Mark Toops there for our rebuilding program on Grand Isle. And we had so many of his parishioners who contributed and donated to our Rebuild Grand Isle project, because even though they might have been weekend residents, you know, with camps and stuff,
right,
they understood that the health and sustainability and vibrancy of Grand Isle relies on the people who live there. Yeah. The people who have lived there for decades or generations and who are working at the restaurants, or the gas stations or fishing guides or shrimpers. These are the people that truly keep the island moving and alive. And we were so blessed by everyone who gave to continue that.
That's great. And so if you're out there and you're hearing about this fantastic work and you're saying, I want to get involved somehow, be sure to visit the website, and we'll come back to that again and again throughout the podcast. So we've talked a lot about recovery, and I'm almost hesitant to use the word because I know resilient has become sort of this touch point word. Some people are like, please stop saying we're resilient. And I think it's because we've been through a lot.
Yes.
But resiliency of the community is really important. And I'd like for you to talk a little bit about, and you've touched upon it, right? The importance of the work, not just in the recovery phase. And, you know, one of the things we talk about at Fletcher a lot of times when we talk about recovery and then this resilience piece is this idea that we need to build those foundations, take the lessons that we've learned, apply them for the future so that we can do better. But then, you know, the other place that I've seen Bayou Community Foundation really play a critical role is sometimes after storms, after the big events, right, the cavalry comes in, but they can only stay so long. And then it falls back, or it becomes the responsibility of us in the community to take that work and to continue to build upon it. And I think that's what you all do really beautifully is you're here, you're embedded in the community, right? So you're being helpful in that way. But how do you see the efforts that you all do, not just in the recovery and helping people get back on their feet, but really in that long-term resiliency of the community, making sure that the culture stays alive? You talked a little bit about it in terms of Grand Isle, right? This making sure that the people are there to continue to have that community thrive. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about those efforts, the longer-term things that you're trying to accomplish through the work you do.
Yeah. Well, first, let me point out that goal fortified, storm resilient, which means they are built to 150 mile per hour winds. They're also built in places like Dulac and Grand Isle, and even in South Lafourche, they're built 1 foot above FEMA flood elevation. So we're doing all we can to make sure the brick and mortar can sustain future challenges. So that's one thing. But by doing that, we are allowing a family to continue to live here and grow, generation after generation. So let me say that, just brick and mortar. But in the big picture, as we look at what our community really needs and what gaps and challenges we're facing from a humanitarian perspective, of course, there's so many other organizations who attack issues like infrastructure so well,
Right.
And coastal restoration so well. We are focused on the humanitarian side. And it is our hope and our purpose that by knowing the needs and knowing the nonprofits that are doing the work right here to address those needs and doing what we can to support their work, we are creating a stronger community where people can live here, people are served here, and will continue to do so for many decades to come. So that's the way I see our role in long-term recovery. I also want to mention, after Hurricane Ida, a few months after Hurricane Ida, I received a call from a Washington, D.C. think tank. And they were interviewing me, asking me about recovery and things like that. And then they said, well, we would love to talk with someone who wants to leave but can't, who wants to move but can't afford it. And I simply said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Bayou Community Foundation is helping those people who want to stay. That's our community.
Yeah.
You don't understand our community. People aren't running because of the storm. They just want a little assistance to pick up the pieces and rebuild. And he just couldn't quite understand that. He didn't understand why people weren't just looking for a way out and to abandon their homes. And I said, this is not only where they live, this is where their family lives. This is all they know, and this is where people want to stay.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And it takes me back, I used to get so frustrated after Hurricane Katrina because I was in New Orleans at that time at the number of people who would say, why are you going back? Why are you rebuilding? And because it's home. Because it's where my family is. It's because of where I want to be and the people I want to be around and the culture. And so I think sometimes, I don't know if we have a greater appreciation for it now because there have been so many different disasters and things, whether it's a snowstorm on the East Coast or the fires in California. But I'm hopeful that people are getting a better sense of we live here because it's our roots. It's where we want to be. I mean, it's my chosen home. I didn't grow up here, and I love Ohio. I'm not crazy about the snow. I'm not crazy about the recent snowstorm either. But to me, that's where we want to be. That's where we choose to be. And so I don't know. I guess just my little soapbox, right? That my frustration and hearing that kind of like this idea that, well, why would you want to stay? For the same reasons you want to stay in your home and in your community where you have brought up your family and where you've raised your children, where you went to school and you hope your children will go to school. It's for all of those reasons. And that's, I think, why we do the work we do at Fletcher and probably why you do the work you do at Bayou Community Foundation at the end of the day.
That's right. Just this week, hosted a tour of some American Red Cross folks. American Red Cross has been a partner with us in our rebuilding project and has donated to our program. And so they had some donors from around the country who were here, and I hosted them at one of our homeowners' homes in Dulac that we built as part of the Dulac rebuilding program, Miss Kristine Strickland. And so we were on Shrimpers Row, and we welcomed these group of people from all over the country. And their eyes were wide open. They were so amazed. They had so many questions about the house and the height of the house. She was at 15 feet. And as she talked about, their livelihood and growing up in Dulac, it just makes you really remember what a special and unique community we have. And this isn't anywhere else in the country. Yep. And this livelihood and this community must be not only preserved, but strengthened.
Yeah.
So it can survive.
Awesome. So you talked a little bit about some of the challenges, right? So you've mentioned homelessness, mental health. Are there other challenges that you see before our community that do you think we should be paying particular attention to, or that you feel like are places where we need to put more energy and effort as a community?
Well, I think I mentioned hunger, and we have a tremendous number of men, women, and children, particularly, who go hungry every day in our community. It's hard to believe that, but it is happening, and the numbers have grown tremendously. I wish, rather than just feeding people, and we need to do a better job of that, we could really get to the root causes of hunger. And it would be wonderful if our region, and I don't know what the answer is, but if we could truly address the core issues.
Do you know what those are?
No.
Yeah?
I mean, I think it's a mixture of employment and workforce development and other life situations and education and health and so many other factors that impact that situation. Personally, I just wish we could at some point, shift from simply feeding people to feeding them in a way that changes their lives and gets them completely out of that risk.
Yeah, that cycle. And, the thing that keeps me up at night, right, as chancellor here at Fletcher is that question right now, is the question of workforce. And every night I go to bed and I think, I just wish there was a magic wand or a magic solution to this issue around workforce. But it's a compilation of things. It's all kinds of little things. Everything from, I can have the greatest programs, but if people can't get to them, the transportation or childcare, or, we have a food pantry here on campus, because how do you study? How do you learn? How do you sit for a test if you're hungry? Your mind's distracted, right? We all know that. I get hungry an hour before lunch and I'm, can't think straight. But, I think that's where the opportunity is in the work that you do. And the partnerships, right? And I want to take a minute to talk about those partnerships that you have throughout the community, because it's almost like we each hold a key to a multi-locked door, right? And we all need to figure out a way to kind of come together, bring that thing that we're really good at and that we have some expertise in, and apply all of those skills almost at once to move the needle. And, so in that respect, your partnerships that you obviously have multiple, especially across the nonprofit sector. But I'd love to hear, what you're doing with business and industry. And I don't know, any thoughts on how do we create an environment where we all maybe stop working in some silos and we figure out how we bring this together, whether it's our regional economic development agencies, our planning district, our nonprofits, together with our educational institutions, to try to figure out what that solution is. Mm-hmm. And I just would love that for me, because I know it's the one thing when I talk to business and industry, when I talk to parents who are constantly, it's either we need workers and when I have parents who say, I want my kids to be able to stay here and grow up and work and live. And man, do you have a magic wand?
Yeah, no,
Let me
I
start there.
wish. I know.
Let me start there.
I wish we did. I do want to commend you and commend Fletcher and commend your wonderful team, because I think the programs that we have been able to fund that provide classes for students down the bayou in southern Terrebonne and southern Lafourche have been just so impactful, and you are really moving the needle in that respect.
Thank you.
And so I applaud you all for that. I also am excited. I know that I met here at Fletcher with you and another group at the end of last year with SLEC, and I was pleased that they brought Bayou Community Foundation in as the humanitarian voice, so to speak, as the nonprofit voice, realizing that not all challenges can be solved by business only or by government only. Many of those challenges rely on nonprofits to address, and by working all together, we can address more. So I'm very pleased to have been included in that, and I think that kind of collaborative approach will take us farther. I'm also happy at Bayou Community Foundation because of our relationships with donors like Chevron, for instance, or Woodside Energy. We are able to give them insight on what those humanitarian needs are here. They want to be invested. They want to help our community grow and strengthen and make sure that we have residents who are working in their industry and contributing to our community. And we can give them an insight on what those needs are and how their investment in BCF can help us address some of those greatest needs that will impact and benefit us all. So that is another, I think, strong point, that strong role that BCF serves, connecting business and industry to some of our basic community needs.
Great. And I am going to take a moment to do a little shameless plug. You mentioned the Down the Bayou programs that we've done specifically in healthcare, and thank you so much for your generous support of that. I know we have made a tremendous difference in a number of individuals' lives. But if you're out there and you're listening, and maybe you live down the bayou, we are bringing programs to you. So one of the things we've talked about at Fletcher is sometimes it is difficult to get to Schriever, or if you're in Lafourche, maybe to the Thibodaux campus, but we are bringing those programs on the road. And so if you have interest in some of those programs, please be sure to visit our website, and those will be out there and you can sign up for them. So great opportunities, scholarship dollars available for those. So want to say thank you publicly, and just tell you how much we appreciate you help us getting those programs off the ground.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so happy for the participants.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, one of the first programs that we funded, I guess that was a year ago, I think we heard that everyone who finished the class was employed immediately. So that's great.
Yeah, and I think one of those graduates actually has gone on now to their next degree.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so I think they are pursuing the associate's degree here at Fletcher after they got their certification. Well, you know what? We love good stories, good heartfelt stories. Tell us a success story. Tell us one thing that kind of just sits on your heart, right? You're going to carry that one with you forever.
I'm going to go back to rebuilding.
Okay.
Because it has truly been an inspirational journey. And I'm sorry, I'm going to get emotional because I'm emotional every time I talk about it.
Okay.
And I think of the families who, and I'll give you one example to answer your question is I'm thinking of Tisha, who is a single mom in Cutoff, who before the storm, before Ida, she, her young son, and her mom were living in a camper. That was their home in Cutoff. Hurricane Ida came through and obviously completely destroyed that camper. They were left with nothing, and even worse than that is had no insurance. FEMA was not able to help them or denied them help because a camper wasn't considered a permanent residence, even though for years this is what they called home. She heard about Bayou Community Foundation and applied. initially, because she did not own a home, a traditional home, as we
Right.
would think, during the storm, we didn't think she was eligible. But then we went out and met Tisha and heard her story. And when we realized that while you and I may not consider a camper a home, this was, in fact, their home. And there was no way we could make that decision on what should be considered or not. So we approved her application, and this past Christmas and Thanksgiving were the first time she was in a real home since the storm. And she decorated beautiful decorations, and she sent us pictures and wrote us a little note that said, for the first time in her 30-something years of life, she feels so safe in a new home, and she praised God and thanked all of our wonderful Amish volunteers for giving her and her family this new start in life. And it's stories like hers that make all this worth it. And it makes you realize, too, how much we take for granted, and that other people right here, our neighbors, are struggling with, and how much impact we can have by just sharing our blessings with others. So that's what sticks with me, especially these days.
So beautiful. Yeah, it's more than a home,
Yes.
And wow, that's really touching. And I can see the passion for what you do. And I want to thank you for
Well, you're
doing that
welcome.
and bringing your blessings and your gifts to our community.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an important point for people to remember. Sometimes we do get caught up in our daily lives. When we started the podcast, you said, "How you doing?" And I said, "I'm good but busy." And you said, "Good but busy." and we are. And I think sometimes we do. We get caught up in our own lives, and it's hard to imagine that maybe the person sitting next to us is hungry, or maybe is struggling in a way, and to have a greater awareness of that, I think, is so important, that we look beyond ourselves sometimes and look at our neighbors and figure out how we can help them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I want to end up our conversation about Bayou Community Foundation, and let's look forward. Let's
Yes.
talk about the future.
Ooh.
What's happening? What is your vision? Where do you see the foundation going in the future? What does that look like? And maybe even a little bit about how we can help you get there.
Yes. Well, I can say that in the past 2 years, we have grown from me as the only employee to now 3 staff members.
Wow.
So we've had tremendous growth
Good for
over
you.
the past 2 years in both staff and programs and impact. So that's been great. I just want to see Bayou Community Foundation continue to do the good work we're doing and continue to connect people who care with causes that matter. But if we can, through our advocacy and convening and our grants program, do an even better job of addressing not just the surface needs that we see, but those root causes like you and I were talking about, that's what I would love to see. And I would like for everyone in Lafourche, Terrebonne, and Grand Isle to be aware of Bayou Community Foundation, to know that we are the philanthropic engine for this area, and that our success truly depends on their generosity. And by giving to Bayou Community Foundation, they are directly impacting the future success of our community.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Keep up the great work.
Well, thank you. Thank
And
you.
just know, Fletcher will always be a partner in that work, whatever you
Oh,
need for
good.
us.
Oh, thank you. We
Count
are
us
just delighted
in.
for their partnership. I always tell people when we have our work conference here, or workshops, etc., that this is our home away from home.
That's it. Love it. Love it. Well, I'm going to pivot back a little bit. So, I wish I could have found the scuba diving thing, but I try
it's
I
okay.
try to learn a little bit about my guests beforehand.
Okay, go ahead.
And the one thing that most people I talked to talked about your love of the saints.
Okay.
And so are you a season ticket holder? Do
Oh,
you get to
no.
games at all?
No, actually, recently, beyond the Saints, recently I was surprised with tickets to the Super Bowl.
What?
So
Whoa, okay, there's a story. Let's hear that one. Back up.
I received a call. This was back in December. I received a call from Leah Brown from Chevron asking if inviting me to, on behalf of Bayou Community Foundation, to go to the New Orleans Bowl. And we could have a video of BCF play in the Superdome during the game, and that they were recognizing partners. So I said, sure, that's great. And I quickly got a video together and went to the game, expecting just to go out in the field, see the BCF video, and, yay, be done.
Right.
Well, I get on the field and they play the VCF video, and then I see in my peripheral vision something happening and people coming to me, and they presented me with 2 tickets to the Super Bowl.
Holy cow, that's amazing. But
I know. That was
how amazing.
that was really very, very surprising, and I'm just delighted. It was a wonderful moment. Wonderful moment.
A recognition
Yes.
of your work too.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, we always end with a word of advice, something that maybe you've learned along the way, or something maybe someone said to you that you hold near and dear that you'd like to share with those who are joining us on the podcast today.
Yes, I always have told my kids through life, and still do, and tell myself, is never be afraid to ask questions. I have found when I look back on my career, which took many different twists and turns and places I never imagined, never be afraid to ask questions and to advocate for yourself when you need to. And that has always helped me. I think it has encouraged my children and served us well. Just open your mouth, ask questions, advocate for yourself.
Excellent.
That's what I'll say.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you again for joining us here on the podcast today. I have really enjoyed getting to know you better.
Yes.
And
thank you.
For all of you who are listening and or watching out there, this has been Bridging the Bayou, the podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College, encouraging you to consider getting involved or making a contribution to the Bayou Community Foundation. Again, you can find that at bayoucf.org. If you'd like more information on any one of the amazing programs that you guys offer, or if you'd like to help out your community in some way. Be sure to like and listen where you get their podcasts. And if you know somebody who could benefit from all of the wonderful services of Bayou Community Foundation, please share this podcast with them. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Bridging the Bayou, the podcast of Fletcher Technical Community College. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.